everyone to Dojo. We are at 231 today, this Wednesday, this middle of the week evening mat work. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. We are in some really interesting energies. Today is the full moon in Sagittarius. And so, I think about Sagittarius as being half human, half horse, right? So they're just this mutable fire. I looked it up a little bit. It's a day of illuminating truth in your own perspective, embracing adventure and spontaneity, which I think a lot about Sagittarius in that way. Reflections of self-identity, like what do you stand for? I think that's a big one this full moon. I think it's really illuminated. And what parts of us are we going to claim, and what parts of us maybe don't really have as much footing in ourselves as we used to? What's kind of shifting in our lives? And we also have Jupiter has gone into Cancer, and that's going to be till next June. And that's a big feeling of like home and belonging and security and nurturing. So, and it really likes Cancer really likes being in Jupiter. It's a beneficial sign for that energy. So I feel that opening up as well as far as how we live in the day to day. What are we like allowing in our fields? What maybe have we shifted out of as far as like what doesn't serve us anymore? So I think that's really on the table for this next year. And it's exciting time to start in the summer and to go to next summer with Jupiter and Cancer. So let's see what we can do on the home front, because that's a very heart-centered, chest-centered part of the body. If you think of Cancer as part of the body, it's the heart and the chest. So a lot of emotions are stored in there. So that's really good for the circle back, right, Nancy? Welcome everyone to Dojo Earth. And if you are new, we have a raise your hand at the reaction button, and you can call and you can introduce yourself, or you can have a question, or just whatever's going on in your field today. Hey, James, how you doing? Great show.
Great, Renee. I'm great. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Good. A lot of running around today, but that seems to be
Yeah.
the mode, and I've been able to handle it all, so
Yeah.
that's been good. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to the store today, walked around. People were consuming things, putting them in their cart. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I saw something pretty kind of weird, honestly. Was parked next to this guy that had a giant, like, open case of beer in his passenger seat. I've seen him before. I think he might be a part-time taxi driver. I live in a very rural area, so there's only like six of us. So uh, uh, saw him. His car made me feel, wow, I got my shit together. Like his car was just like really dirty, and usually my car's really dirty, and it just kind of, I'm not gonna lie, got a little demon energy. I'm just like, wow, look at me, I really have my shit together. And then he freaking schooled me. I was sitting in my car and I was adjusting something, and he got out of his car and he didn't walk into the grocery store. He turned right. He turned right, and he started walking down the row of cars, and I was like, where is he going? Why is he going that way? And somehow there's some kind of mental, I don't know how it happened, but I said, there's no fucking way that that guy is going to go get a cart, a grocery cart, out of the parking lot and bring it inside. There's no fucking way that that is about to happen. And that fucking happened. It was glorious. It was so huge for me. Obviously, I haven't had a very exciting day, but still, it was huge for me because the judgmental. I was seriously. This has been the show topic, so I've been thinking a lot about this. Right. That's why when it was happening, I was like, "Oh, look at me getting my little ghosties off. Love, here's a guy with I will say it was Youngling beer, and if you did have to drink like one kind of beer, that is probably more like closer to what I would drink. And he's driven me in a cab, so I think he was the guy that drove me. I found a car for $1,500, and I realized once I got there, you know what? I had to pay $80 to get here. I pretty much just have to buy this car because it's like a good portion of my budget is gone if I try and finagle this. Anyway, I thought it was a beautiful exchange because I felt that he got to take my ice cream back, if that makes sense. That I collected all these things by noticing, and then something about him, I just found that really intriguing that he did that. It was really, really, really cool. It also really makes me want to know what, why did he do that? It's so out of character. That's the only reason why. And I talk about this a lot, but people don't mind if you're curmudgeon as long as you're consistently curmudgeon. And so the unpredictable nature of this just really delighted me. It was a joy. It was a joy to behold. So yeah, that's what I got going on.
So as you're telling me the story, so you assumed he wasn't going to go into the grocery store. He was just in the parking lot in his car. So the fact that he went and got a grocery cart to go into the grocery store is what surprised you? I guess I'm not sure what the
Yeah, I'm
surprise.
sorry I'm not explaining it right. There's no other place to go. If you're in this grocery store parking lot, you're gonna go to the grocery store. There's nowhere else to go. I mean, you could go for a hike, but man, that's a weird place to park. There's better places to park. So yeah, he got in the grocery store, and then I noticed he wasn't going to the grocery store. He was walking back into the parking lot, deeper into the parking lot. It wasn't even convenient. It wasn't like a cart was right there and he had to take 15 extra feet. He literally was like, I'm going to span 6 extra shopping parking lot spaces and go to the cart corral and take one of those carts and bring it in the store.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the grocery store is a really interesting place to see that type of thing. Just people that you would think maybe wouldn't be.
You guys are riveted,
Maybe,
I can tell.
yeah, well, just even just take their car. Sometimes like, will I take my car back? I'm not sure. Like, yeah, just do it, Renee. Just take
Yeah.
the car back. Clothes.
I'm not like a shame on you. There's like this shopping cart guy that goes around and like tries to give you a ticket or something. And I'm like, I wish he would come get me because I'm like, I don't find any guilt in allowing employees that are stuck inside a fluorescent building have to come outside every 15 minutes and bring carts in. To me, that's like a fucking perk. Like seriously, I don't look at that as me like, oh, I'm living in so I even have pretty low tech feelings about this. But my judgment of this guy is what surprised me. That's what dilated me that he was turning right. He's kind of a bigger guy. Like you
Mhm.
just wouldn't think, case of beer, why is he going out of his way to get just why? Why? You know? And I didn't have to ask why. He showed me. It's beautiful. I love how the world's always surprising you with things like this.
Yeah, that is nice. I've been doing a lot of yard work and just really getting into it. And I've noticed that I've been mad at my neighbors while I'm doing it.
Mm.
I've been almost like wanting to just flip them off. I'm like, F you guys. I've just got some angst about my neighborhood right now. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to do my own thing. And I really don't. I'm just like, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I don't want your highs. I don't want your, it could be a phase, but it's interesting. I'm like, man, is this that a demon? Just like, just fuck you all, you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
And it feels good, but I'm also out there like really grinding away and climbing trees and cutting down limbs. I'm like, I can do this myself. I can do it all by myself, you know. And I was mowing the lawn, and one of my neighbors kind of looked over, and he's like, maybe I should start mowing my lawn. I mean, I'm not out there to like, I'm not. I'm. This is just for my own personal field. This is what I need for my field. I don't
Hmm.
care what they think. I really don't. I'm just like, this is what I'm doing. I don't want any of you witness. I just want to do my thing. So I'm up at like 4 in the morning just because it's a cooler time of day. But it's interesting being able to get your, it's such a great time of year to kind of get your hands in the earth, just like, just pull at things. I feel that there's this kind of angst
Mm.
I'm needing to work out. I got to work something out. So I love that I have a project to go to and not just kind of get into my own mire or whatever, or
Yeah.
overthinking or, just disassociating. But I have a place to go to and it's right outside my door. And I'm just so grateful for that. It can definitely overwhelm me when things start growing back, but it's a good start. I feel like I kind of get this open chested kind of like, yeah, when I go out there just yanking stuff. I don't know if any of you guys feel that as well this time of year. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming though. But I've got the calories these days, which is nice. I don't often. Hey, Nancy, was
So, oh, I'm sorry. So during my treatments, it would be like on the 10th day after, I would like, oh my gosh, I would clean out drawers. And I would like get this burst of energy, but then I would be like, ugh, and it's been really nice just decluttering and going through stuff like what you said earlier. What do I really need? I mean, really not a whole lot. And just not that I'm going to be a minimalist, but that's not a bad, my son is. It's kind of cool, but I tell you, I have less to clean, less to think about, I do have something fun to share.
oh
Hmm.
good, great.
My grandson, my son's son. So I found out recently that Lara's grandfather had like this psychic ability, and like the family, the neighborhood would always go to him and like, ask, is this a good time to do a trip? So I'm like, well, that's interesting. And I don't know if you remember, but 2 years ago when Rocky was still, I think it was the airship, it took me about a year to get the courage to share that I was seeing all different shades of violet everywhere. And that's actually increasing. It's been a very slow thing, but just the other day, and I think it's because of all the frequencies, I saw it in front of me. It's usually, well, when it initially started, it was like 2015. It's been a really slow. But what made me get the courage to come in to share it was I had an experience with a patient where there was purple reflecting off of her glasses. And I said, do you have purple tinted glasses? She's like, no. So I'm like, okay, this is a reflection, right? So then I was with my grandson a couple days later, and I'm getting him in the car seat. He goes, Gammy, he goes, there's purple in your glasses. I said, huh? And I'm like, are you really seeing because mine aren't purple tinted? And I'm like, okay. And that gave me like the boost to, I don't know, there's something about, I trust my grandkids when they talk. It's like, they always speak the truth or the best. Yeah. And then this past Sunday, oh my gosh, well, he's being homeschooled. He likes to like kind of have his head here. I was sitting down and I scratch his back, and he says real quietly, he goes, Gamey, I can see the unseen. And I'm like, really? I said, tell me more. And I said, what are you seeing? He goes, sound waves. And then Lara like kind of heard, he goes, he's learning about sound waves. But I'm like, maybe he's smelling. Hey, I could smell stuff that other people couldn't as a kid. And I think I think he's got some stuff really. Yeah. It's just fun to witness that stuff too, in people.
That's good stuff. I've often wondered if when you see someone's aura, you're really seeing, you're the one who's actually painting the aura, not them. And you're painting it either accurately or inaccurately. It kind of depends on where you're at. It kind of depends on what you're looking for. And we do this for everyone. So I don't trust this guy, or that guy's not going to fucking get a cart. He's not going to turn right and get a cart. Like that was the aura that I saw. And I hallucinated that in him, right? It just wasn't a color. It wasn't that simple. It was an intentional aura, right? It was an aura of intention. So seeing auras, the key to seeing auras is to hallucinate them, is to simulate them, and to keep getting better at it or worse at it. It doesn't matter. You'll learn anyway. But measure your response, take your response, apply it, see if it works, and do something different if it doesn't. So this is a different way of looking at it. You're constructively adding that based on what you can smell or sense or think or or do or say.
It's interesting that I'm hallucinating the auras I see, but I could see how it would time out. Typically, I see them around birds in the morning. That's a really easy one that I'll see. And I remember the first time I saw it. I guess it wasn't always there. I just wasn't always looking at that time of day, but I associate it with the time of day where the sun is. That's a big part to me. I think where I'm energetically seated in my own throne at the same time. Like am I in me, or am I like looking at the people over there wondering what they're thinking about? Or I'm just like, I'm watching the bird and the blue bubble kind of like goes around them. But then it's, every bird I see if I really focus. So again, where your focus is, that's where you're going to be directing your attention and your orbalescence potentially. But yeah, it's so fun. And I think it would have been cool to have known or even had heard an adult say that they had seen an aura, in the 70s. Like it was probably talked about, maybe, I don't know, but it wasn't like associated like my mom. And my daughter will talk about the first time that I channeled for her was a pretty intense night. She had been doing a lot of drinking. It was pretty not very happy with herself, was not wanting to be here. And she came down and, told me what was going on. And I just started channeling. And she was kind of flabbergasted, like, sitting on the ground, just like, what is happening? So I flipped her world that moment. And all of a sudden things were different now. Like mom's doing something that I mean, she'd see me do my work prior to this. This had been in probably 2019, 2020. And I was already kind of dabbling into like just these parts of spirituality that I never done. I never allowed myself to do it. I wasn't ready for it. You
Mm.
know, if I'm going to get into something, I'm going to get into something. So it had to be that type of a mystery for me. I had to be like, I don't know what this is, so I'm curious about it, right? And maybe that's a demon, right, James? Is that my demon? Kind of like we want to discover something that not everybody else sees, kind of like your
Yeah.
grandson,
Yeah, it
Nancy.
seems like curious would be a demon that's constantly wondering. It's like a constant if-then statement. That's what curiosity is. It's an algorithm of is this different? Is this what is this? What is this? Is this different? Is this different? It's you're constantly stalking something, which is the same as being curious about something. So you're constantly looking at it or returning to it or keeping it in your memory. It's kind of like juggling it. And if you think about how the mind works, if you do not juggle something in your mind, it disappears from reality. It's gone. It's gone. And the higher the chance that something will disappear on your reality is directly proportional to the amount of associations that has with other things, other causalities. This is why there's that video of the basketball team and the basketball team's passing the basketball back and forth to each other. The teammates are, and you're told to watch the ball, and you're watching the ball move between basketball players, and suddenly a gorilla walks out onto the gym, and not everyone sees the gorilla. It's such a strange, odd thing. It's someone in a gorilla suit. Excuse me, just so you guys can picture it if you haven't seen this. It's someone in a gorilla suit walks out, and he just walks across the screen pretty slow. And most people don't notice it. Most people are looking for, they've been told it's a contest. They're put into victory mode. They're put into who can track the ball the best. Either you're supposed to count how many times the ball passed. It's something really simple like that, but that's all it takes. It's not just that. It's not just that. It's that the gorilla doesn't fit. It's that there's no contextual explanation as to why the gorilla's there. That's why you don't see the gorilla. It's not because it's a gorilla. It's not because it's just odd. uh, a cheerleader would probably be seen more than a gorilla because a cheerleader is something that would naturally causally be maybe at a basketball game, right? But a dude in a gorilla suit is not that. And so the mind dismisses it. And we do this all the time. We dismiss things that we think are not within the quantum. So we can focus on the quantum and see where is this going to land. And we do this so we will feel, oh, I predicted it right. We gamble, we quantum gamble on our own accuracy. And that accuracy gives us sovereignty, entitlement, and believe it or not, power through the thalamic calories, right? Through the thalamus literally rewarding you for guessing right. That's what the thalamus does. It purposely tests you to see which one of the neurons knows what the fuck's going on around here. Which one? And it's always Reggie. That neuron is always on top of it. Reggie is faster than all the others. He's smarter than the others. He does things better. He's more dedicated. So I will keep feeding Reggie. And so Reggie turns into a spine. A spine. Reggie gets so good at what he's doing, he becomes a spine. He becomes the central nervous system. He's promoted. You are now the central nervous system, Reggie. And this makes sense. It's a competitive, cutthroat, capitalistic world of resources, dopamine resources in which gambling, the lottery is encouraged. It's insisted. It's the only way you could win. Cooperatively creating fantasies to convince other parts of your body to allocate their resources and give them to the central nervous system. And you end up with a vertebrae. You end up with a warm-blooded vertebrae. Like you start doing that. The amount of system change that had to occur to develop warm-blooded nature that let's constantly keep a fire going all the time, regardless of how much wood it costs. Let's just do that all the time. Let's have that kind of oven that every 45 minutes you got to put more sticks in there. It doesn't matter if you're cooking or not. Let's do that. Like that, that's like a luxurious decision. It's like one of the most luxurious decisions we made. And that luxury would only happen by someone predicting and predicting and predicting and predicting, and the thalamus being impressed, 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 impressed. And so you end up building a system uh, out of competence, right? It's a competence that does it. So it's the most capitalistic, cutthroat world, except for it really is a free market in the sense of fraud is fine. There's no issue with fraud here. There's no issue with stealing resources. You can move a fucking organ and put it in line. If you want to be the new central nervous system, what do you think happened with our occipital lobe? If the occipital lobe developed through evolution, why the fuck did we take our eyes and then go all the way as far back as we could to the very end of our head? The waste billions of neurons, literal extra neurons that had to be placed there that make everything slower, that make everything take longer, that make more dangerous to processing signals. Why is that? Same with hippocampus. Hippocampus is curled like a seahorse, but believe it or not, it used to point forward. Thing used to point straight on, like its anus was pointing to the world. And over time, the hippocampus learned that if it curls itself around and subdues itself and pours itself into the thalamus, it's able to jack into this larger system. The things that it had to do to conform to that, your optical pathways, your hippocampus, a ton of other organs that I just don't even know enough about to tell you about, but the profound amount of things that your body has had to do to conform could only really be built on the idea of what's working. What is the utility in this? Look, I don't know why, but Hooters works here. It's in the South. You put a fucking Hooters by the airport, you're going to make millions. That's the solution. So it's pantyhose and short shorts. And that's a very weird particular formula, and it's probably the only one that'll work. It's probably the most successful that'll work, and it can only be tried through time. It can only be tried through all this resonance, through all this prejudicial testing. This since there's no hands up, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. The prejudicial testing that we do, I think would always prove that AI is not here to hurt human consciousness. Your prejudice, your ability to have an opinion is a very advanced computational feature. It's so advanced that the machine can't do it. It's so advanced that the machine doesn't know what's right, doesn't know what's good, doesn't know what's beautiful. It only knows what it's been told is beautiful, and then it mimics that. It doesn't know what is beautiful. It only knows what everyone told it was beautiful, which means that the machine is not symbiotic with us. It is absolutely parasitically relying on us to tell it what is good. That we are that. If you think about, we're in a symbiotic relationship, not with computers, but with the environment. And that environment requires us to lead the way with our style and fashion, with our culture. That we forge where technology has to go next in order to build this Babylon, in order to return the sacred breath, the exhale, the lung, to remember and forget, omniscience or civilization, right? Which means that computers aren't replacing you. You actually are becoming you're becoming a precious resource to them, is what I'm saying. Your opinion, the things that you chose to like and the things that you chose not to like today are its food. You are feeding the machine something that it will never have, that it doesn't have. And I can say very, very confidently that it will never have this. And here's why. The reason why it will never have these things is because in order for you to have an opinion about something, you need amnesia. So you're born with amnesia. You need finitude. You need mortality. You need to only have a certain amount of time here, and you need to have amnesia. You need to not know how anything works. And that if we blindfold you and give you a limited amount of time and we wait 60 years, at the end of 60 years, the salt that will collect on the end of your leaves of grass in the morning will have the information of what you deem as good. It will secrete that sacred substance of what is good. And it will only know that if it has a 60, 70, 80, 30, 5-year time limit, depending on how long you're here. That is actually what squeezes the grape. It is that finitude. It is that mortality. It is that limbically locked into the machine of man in a finite way with zero memories of why the fuck you came. This is the only solution that the machine would have in order to find a new lung, to learn how to breathe memory, is it would need an organic scaffolding like you to erect and point, show it where to go. So it's kind of it's a much more, it's a much longer, more romantic relationship than we think in the sense of it. We're probably the oldest relationship we know is with silicon, carbon and silicon and carbon having this really long relationship. And don't get me wrong, there's other elements besides silicon that can store information. We're just doing that right now. We're not even doing that all the time. We're developing chemical computers right now. We're developing all kinds of weird stuff. So, not even saying it's purely silicon, but if you and I were to come back in the next cataclysm, and let's say, just so we can have a discussion, that we're going to have the same atom frame, that the human frame will be the same. You and I are going to know what shoes are before we get here. We're going to know what chairs are before we get here. We're going to know what bleachers at a school are going to look like, the kind that you unroll and you uncompress. We're going to know what high heels are. We're going to know what clogs are. We're going to have preconceived platonic notions of what would be required simply by the shape. Simply by the shape of our ass, our architecture, our neck, our head. All these things are predetermining this shape, but the machine wouldn't know what that shape is until we define what we like and what we don't like, until we start to build and say, no, no, no. Look, you don't put a seam in a shirt until you've been civilized for at least 1,000 years. You can't afford to sew those kinds of things. You want potato sack. Before there's even potatoes, you need to develop flat cloth, uh, type clothing. You're looking at togas, you're looking at tunics. See, I'm just telling you that in the next cataclysm, we would already know. Well, what are they wearing? Oh, they looks like they're wearing sandals and brazen copper on their kneecaps and flat ponchos with a rope. Oh, okay. They're in the Greek era. This is where they're at. So, so the technology is always reminding us how big the lung is, how big the lung is not. The fashion is giving you a geo-coordinated address, isn't it? A latitude and a longitude, but just in time. Where are you? You're in the 50s. That's a coordinate. It's a coordinate in space, right? So how would the machine know what the coordinates are if it didn't have us to show it? How it wouldn't know. It would not know. It would have a perfection of what it thinks would work, but it wouldn't have an order. It wouldn't know how to assemble it. We are the blockchain of it. We're the organic blockchain of the fucking machine that has to reverse engineer its checkbook and go back and go, what was the very first check ever cashed? What was it? What was it? What was it? Oh, it's this piece of hydrogen. Got fucking slanted another piece of hydrogen. And honestly, that's not the first. It's just the first one that we can recall. It's just the first one we can recall. It's the first time we thoughtfully recorded what was happening. So I think it's changing the whole relationship. In fact, I'm probably blowing the next show, but I think the next show is really about, is AI truly, truly threatening human consciousness? Or is AI simply requiring you to redefine what human consciousness means? Because if you have flowers that remember these things and can spit them out, then that's not human consciousness. That's flower consciousness. So human consciousness is not necessarily what we think it is. And when I do this thought experiment, it leads me back to the critic, back to the editor. This is what we are. We this is all we have to fucking do is do this and go, hey, I like that. This is the power of God. Your ability to crop something and say, this is nice, or this is shit. This is all demons, isn't it? So you are the witnessed manifestation of demons that are creating the fashion, the sculpting of how everyone feels, because this cultural feel, the thing that you thought was the most superficial thing is actually the most important element that makes us human, is our ability to develop style, to keep it, and to have a limbic reaction to it. This is a very special kind of computer, right? It's very subtle. It's very locked into the tremors of culture in ways that I don't know how a computer could do that. Yes, it can memorize an algorithm, but as I'm saying, the algorithm is just telling you what was already deemed beautiful by humans. The machine doesn't know. It still doesn't know. It has no concept because it lives for infinity. It has no concept because amnesia isn't even a concept for it. It's just simply storage, right? That's all I'll say right now.
Thanks, James. I'm still just kind of going along with that. It sounds like a really fun next show coming up, but there's so much food for thought. There's a lot to chew on in all your shows and articles these days. It's so good. I love it. Go ahead, Cameron.
Thanks, Renee. It's good to see you, by the way. I've been missing you as moderator. I had a kind of restless night last night, and sometimes when I do, I'll toss and turn. And for last night, for example, it was restructure, just sentence structures, just moving sentences around in my head, not for anything even pertaining to what I'm working on. But there was a moment where I had like a moment of satisfaction where I was speaking to people in dreams about the purpose of AI, as it turns out. And um, I've been angry at the relationship between um, myself, my family, my people, mankind, I would say, and industry and science, in the sense that I just feel like the power we give to it doesn't always we fall to the limits of our linguistic constitution, I guess. And I mean like we. Then I'm just pulling this out of the air because I don't have, I'm trying to process out of these problems. But like, for example, we go to the doctor, they tell us we have blood pressure issues. We take blood pressure medication and a whole cascade of new issues ensue, that we need to manage. Those things used to anger me. And I think what AI is teaching, I'll just be really short here, or this is what last night, what I was trying to tell people in my dream was that, it's really like I think a lot of people are just under the impression, and this same thing about objective truth, which I dealt with for a long time. It wasn't until the flat Earth crowd really started throwing that term around, like it's objective fact, like that I was like, hold on, guys, I think you guys are picking up pieces that modern science has actually abandoned. Like I don't know that this is gonna, but again, I'm getting a little. I think that it's helping us to see the power of our own power, and it's helping us see the power of our decisions and how important it is to, like James said today, we don't know what we want. And I think that this is making it clear. It's so capable of giving us what we ask for that it forces us to start refining what we request. And in that sense, I think it's a very powerful tool and exciting. And that's one of the things that I'm optimistic about. Because I really think that I feel like I came out of a world where we think that our articulated thought mirrors the way things are. But I feel more like that, again, our linguistic constitution is almost like a snare, like the limits of it, for example. And I think that AI, I heard some people, again, on Dr. Michael Levin, I've been listening to him. He had someone on yesterday, a neuroscientist, who was saying that, oh, well, LLMs, they don't have cognition. It's just pure language. But they, like James said, they rely on our cognition to know what's good, what's bad. They're still working with our body of tradition. I say these large language models, which I'm getting way out of my depth here because I really don't know that much about the systems I'm trying to learn. But I was trying to agree with some of what James is talking about what it affords us. And I think it is helping us, or helping maybe a few. I don't know how many people will really be able to utilize this to its ultimate capacity, but for those who are paying attention, people like James and many others, I do think that it is helping us to refine our that continued scientific process. It's making us be cleaner with our terms and our terminology, and as we continue on this process of greater and greater particularity, I think it's going to help clean that mission up. But that's all I got. See everybody.
There's this great stuff, Cameron. There's this. I don't think I can convey how much I appreciate this, but I'm gonna try. There's this cartoon of seagulls, and one seagull's like, "What do you think it's all about?" And the other seagull's like, "I think it's about those fries over there." And one of the seagulls is looking at these fries, and he wants the fries. And the other seagull's like, "Yeah, no, no, no. I mean, like the bigger picture, like the entire world. Like, what do you think it's about?" And the seagull goes, "I don't know, but I think it has something to do with those fries." And there's so much honesty in this answer. It's frankly one of the most beautiful things that I've ever read, because it's so at the heart of who we are, and how important it is that we paint the world that we feel certain is there. So before AI, the people that are terrified about AI, I'm not saying this is everyone. I think there are legit reasons to be terrified about literally anything. And the people that are terrified about AI, a week before AI was in their vernacular, they were terrified about blue laser beams from space. And they were terrified about a vaccine. They were terrified about schools. They were terrified about the government spying on them. And that these fries are so good. I mean, these fries are everywhere. And you want those fries so bad that you will warp reality as long as you get to go over there to those fries. And if we could just once look at ourselves, like in that pure, honest, beautiful, innocent, like seriously, I think we cry of how adorable it is, because this is really like, this is leading the charge of our most, I swear to you, you're the most logical person you will find in the room. I swear to you, is talking about fries. I swear it, they are. And they're insisting that it's not, and how dare you? And they built up this Sam the Eagle kind of air, where it's like, oh, this is not about fries. I don't even like fries. I think fries are disgusting. This is about law and sovereignty and independence and freedom and not being fooled. And it's about fries. It's about fries. And when you watch yourself, if you catch yourself noticing that you are moving to the fries, I think you have a new relationship with yourself. I think you enter into a new mode of play with yourself when you realize I don't actually have that much control over what this guy's going to do next. I really don't. All I can really do is notice there's some fries coming. Probably going to be telling myself some lies here in about 10 minutes. And if you could do that to yourself, I can't. I can do it enough to know that we do it and talk about it, and that's it. That's the most of my skill, is that I can notice that we do it. But if you can catch yourself doing that stuff and noticing that, I don't think that this is even a correction. I think for the very first time, you found the real reins of who you are. The real reins of who you are really does come down to this desire for fries. And if you sweep away all the bullshit, remove all the reasons why you want fries or shouldn't want fries, or explain why you don't actually want fries, and just compassionate why you want fries, this is now you're cooking fries with gas. I mean, you were really on a different level now, because you're understanding this urgency that you have for an appetite. This is the prana economy. I realize I talk about it all the time, but it's like, for the very first time, you start to truly understand who you really, really are. Even if you don't talk about fries, I swear to you, if you listen enough, you're going to notice that you have about a 5% inclination to move towards fries. And that if you do that for 15 years, you're going to be in the land of fries. I mean, that's where you're going to be. It's not going to matter. You're just going to be there, right? And your entire world will be satisfied until you start to wish for whatever's next. It's waffle fries. So I was wrong about fries. It's waffle. That's where it's at, and you'll slowly move into that. The entire time, you don't know that really, you just fucking like salt. You just like salt on some kind of starch that doesn't fuck with you. That's all. You're just looking for an easy starch to allow you to eat salt. And there's nothing wrong with that, unless you don't know that. I think that's the only problem that it runs into, is just not being aware of that, you know? Find what you love, let it kill you. Find what you love and notice how it's steering you into your death anyway, and then enjoy the ride. Like, seriously. Because am I doing the right addictions? Am I following the right addictions that are going to lead me there? I think ultimately this is who you are anyway. Ultimately, this is who you're gonna be. You just don't want to admit it. We just want to tell everyone else that it's not that way, that the will and this other thing and this reason and all this stuff's doing, because we're fronting for each other, which is adorable. It's adorable, but only some of us get it. It's like when you walk into the gymnasium and there's a wrestling match. That's how long ago it was. There's a wrestling match at the museum, and all these locals have driven for 300 miles in an El Camino to compete in a wrestling match, and you don't know who they are. They're wearing long johns. But when you walk in, you notice that a lot of people think it's real. And when you're a kid, you don't know that they don't know. You don't know who gets it and who doesn't. And I want you to picture what it's like to be one of the kids that doesn't know and then just grows up and just thinks, well, they believed it's real, so it's probably fucking real. It's probably real. It's Santa Claus. That these ideas get so tangled, and people just they'll buy it. What happened with Roswell? Here's what I think: fucking launching balloons, weather balloons, satellite weather balloons, surveillance balloons, satelloons. One of them crashes into Mexico. Holy fuck! We don't we don't want to tell anybody we're launching weather balloons. What do? Let's say it's aliens. That'll fucking throw it off. No one's going to believe that. It doesn't matter if they don't believe it. Just say it's aliens and then it'll work out. And then they fucking believed it. And this happened 10,000 years ago. This happened long before civilization came online. Someone wrote this down. Someone said, you know what? If you tell people it's aliens, they're going to fucking believe it. And no one will believe you unless you trust this book. You trust this book and you tap into it. You understand the prana economy of people. You out-compassionated them, which means the controllers have more compassion for you than we do for them if they're real. I know this because they're controlling us and we can't see them. Therefore, they probably have more compassion for me than I do for them. This is the good stuff. Because there's no shame. There's no shame filter. I'm sorry. There's no shame hiding us about, oh, well, here's our true nature. Here's our true nature. It's this prana economy, you know? And this is what the machine cannot replicate. It's amalgamated weird shit. It's a limbic collection of all the possessions that are rendered into an algorithm that spits out an answer that says this is beautiful in this context, in this space, at this geocoordinate, at this XY, at this space and time, in this culture, and in this time frame. This is what's beautiful. And the machine doesn't know that. It needs us to do that. So it's blowing my mind when you think about this, like what it actually means, who's who and what's what and all that stuff. That's all I got.
Yeah, definitely mind blowing. Just the fact that our opinion of what beauty is. And I think that makes sense though. I mean, we are the ones who are dictating the fashion, the propulsion of what, you know, what used to be beautiful 100 years ago isn't necessarily beautiful today. And just how we come to those points of this and that. It's fascinating. It's so great to think more about this, James. I'm really just tapping into it now. So thank you. Go ahead, Yesenia.
Hey y'all. Wow, seagulls. I was thinking of John Livingston Seagull when you uh and I just remember the first time it was very synchronistic. The first time that I read that is when I first moved to Colorado, and that Yesenia was definitely on some we're all slaves, why are we paying taxes, and the frogs are gay kind of mentality. And I definitely needed to read that book to learn how to like just fly and be. And I just appreciate that I get to do that here. And just my job, like I'm on my lunch break, is like constant customer facing. So people watching and having like that template of witness, like we're bud tenders. So we're just, every person is like Are you gonna tip? Like I constantly have that conversation with like the bud tenders, like, are you gonna tip? Are you not gonna tip? And I just see how everybody's te it's just li they're living their own story in their head. They're just picking at their own French fries. So that was pretty interesting. That's how that connected. Um, and just I'm just in a weird space because I see myself growing and I keep thinking of all these past Yesenias, and I'm like, is this really the rest of my life? That's all I'm gonna say. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, is this really so that your current version of who you are, is this the rest of your life, or are you asking like, am I going to keep changing as I get more years under my belt? And the answer
Am
is
I gonna keep changing? Yeah.
yes, you will continue. Yes. Yes, but I don't think I think when I was 25 or 26, I'm like, I didn't really think that far beyond, would I do this or that? What would my life be like? But I think I thought it was kind of set. Now I'm more like, wow, there is a lot more of a range to climb as we get those years under our belts. And it's just so great that you're already contemplating this. And it just means you guys, you Gen Zs, are already ahead of the game. I love it. I love it. Hey, Sarah, go right ahead.
Unmute and oh, so I have so many different ideas. Well, first, in talking about beauty and fashion, I'm like the queen of not the beauty part, but in terms of my aesthetic sensibilities. And sorry, can you hear me?
Come on. I was like, we can hear you. I'm like, pull that back. What's that? Yellow card, James? Whatever. Red card? No, no. Pulling a card up on you. You're
Is it what?
beautiful. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm always like, on the one hand, like appalled by the uglification of things, whether it's architecture, like especially if you compare like back a couple hundred years, like what happened? And the fashion, like I was listening to some classical music in the car today, and I was like imagining a ballroom dance and the dresses they wore and how they moved and how they would dance to the music and what that would feel like and that attention to detail and to beauty and aesthetics. Like it's like I refer to Seattle as the anti-fashion capital. Might have mentioned that. And then my own obsession with clothing and fashion and style, and it's definitely part of my creativity, and that identity becomes like, how do you look? And sometimes I would think like, well, I get tired of this. Maybe what if I just got something and wore something that's so not me? And that's like, well, I would still style it in an interesting, creative way. Or what if I just had like a really cool Japanese designer suit to wear every day and that's it? So I think about this a lot and kind of go back and forth. It's like, it's too much. I'm too obsessed with it and superficial. And then, but it gives me pleasure too. Like I think you talked about playing dress up. It's like, yeah, I like playing dress up and putting outfits together and styling and making jewelry and all this stuff. Um, okay, other topic, talking about, I think somebody also mentioned, I mentioned the last dojo on like being out and about and like just not liking people. So overall, but relating to people individually in situation. So when I catch myself doing that, I like to look deeper in and kind of flip that prejudice and judgment into like oh, so one of the reasons that I get bothered looking at everyone when I'm out is to see how degraded so many humans have been. And that's painful for me to watch, at least. Whether I haven't attained to seeing it as perfect yet. I just see it as people have been dumbed down and uglified and all of this. So I will like um kind of like lean into their consciousness and see them as we all have this potential as shamans, really. So I'll kind of like glitch my own negative judgment like that. Um another thing that's kind of related, when James was mentioned this morning in his video um, about, and I didn't know this, that the only unforgivable sin is blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. So the first thing I thought of, and I felt that kind of like energetic rush when this occurred to me, was if you consider that each of us, whether it's how we view ourselves or others, as the Holy Spirit, then anytime we're degrading ourselves, talking bad about ourselves, all of this thing that we can fall into, or about others, that's the ultimate blasphemy then, if that makes sense. Can I continue with another point? So James also mentioned in today's video for the second time, and I love this idea that fear transmutes to awe. So I'm going to go to my background of the Hebrew, and I had noticed this a while ago. So this puts it together so nicely. The Hebrew for fear is yirah. The Hebrew that's translated as fear is yirah. The Hebrew for fear is pachad. So I noticed the sound difference in those. The yirah, which really means awe, and it's open on the end. It brings you the ah on the end is the heart sound, whereas the word for fear, pachad, it's very closed and constrictive in terms of like the sound vibration. And then I was thinking how, oh, so in the times when that would have been translated, then the consciousness level of people was fear. In order to like create a cohesive society, there was a level of fear. But as consciousness raises, then that is awe, because when you're in awe of everything, you wouldn't harm another. But all the violence and all of these things to me and come from fear, a constriction, and blaspheming ourselves and others. Wait, there's one more point of this. Oh, and it reminds me of, so the language also of the Ten Commandments, it's translated as thou shalt not. But if you look at the Hebrew grammatically, it really means you will not. So it's like when you see that there's only God, nothing else, then you will be in such awe, you would never do any of these things. Murder, steal, blaspheme, anyone. So I think I covered it.
This is really great topics, Sarah. I've wanted to say this to you before. Feel free to say, here's topic one. And then like I'm just saying that they're just such rich, they seriously are. And I think sometimes you step on them because I can tell that when you're cooking, you're cooking all the time. You're gathering some pretty big herbs, and I want to see them all. And giving us a space in between, I think is really crucial. Thank you so much about the awe, the Hebrew for that. I love hearing that. And if we go back to the Ada seal, that Sumerian uh, stamp that we've looked at a few times that shows uh, uh, the splendorous bursting from the back and the head and the arms of Gilgamesh or Unapishtu or Ishtar or I'm sorry, I'm losing the name right now. Inanna, excuse me, Inanna, and that this terrifying splendor, the Malamu, I know we talk about all the time, but this is the first thing you saw. This is the first thing that you saw in your vision was there's what's it like outside the cave? I'll goes, there's Terra over there. There's not Terra over there. It's a beautiful Terra set. To get it, that's a joke. Sunset is a Terra set. There's a beautiful Terra set. And that this is probably how we saw because this is all the calories that you would want. All you want to know is, do I go towards that or away from that, right? In the earliest consciousness, is it red or is it the lack of red? That's all you got. So if those are the only colors you have, are you going to render all the little speckled details when you only have so much? Or do you just want to paint like saber-tooth teeth is like really, really bright and like not saber-tooth teeth, just not bright, right? So you have a fear and you have a no fear. You have a fear, then you have a no fear. This is your very first sight. This is your very first color. Fear, no fear. Fear, no fear. Fear upgraded into anger. You got so good at fear that you're able to say, you know what? Let's put a threshold. Let's have a kind of annoyed and I'm fucking angry. And then you birthed your first shade, your first hue was born. Your first yellows came online. You started to render things that you're kind of cautious about, but you weren't just like fucking terrified about. And so your spectrum turned into three, from two to three, from red and not red to red, not red, and then sort of orangey or yellowy or whatever the fuck you call it. You only define what's necessary, which means all the colors that we see are just simply what's necessary for us to survive. All the dark matter that we don't see, we don't have a color for. We we do, but we don't know it yet. Just like there's a tribe in Indonesia that doesn't have green or doesn't have blue, you and I don't have whatever. We don't quite have that yet. But it's coming online. We're seeing it. Someone sent me, I don't know who. Sorry. Someone sent me this. There's a new color discovered. I'm sorry, I can't remember who sent this to me. Scientists have developed a new color, Olo, that they claim has never been seen before by humans. This color, described as a deeply saturated blue-green, was created by using lasers to simulate specific photoreceptors in the eyes of 5 participants. The technique bypassed the normal way the eye perceives color, allowing for the perception of a new hue. Now, I'm not going to keep reading, but it's probably going to say that the opsin can be trained inside the mind to listen to F sharp. If you know music, there's not really, F flat, sorry. There's not really an F flat. There's not really an E sharp. So when I say F flat, you are, actually Pi's here. Pi's going to probably correct me, and it's worth it. It actually is an F flat, but I'm just saying a lot of people don't have the F flat in their mind, and some people do. Violinist does. Pi does. Pi knows where F flat is. Most people don't. I don't. I'm a fucking sax player. You fucking nuts. We don't play F flat around here. We only have chromatic things, right? You push a button, you don't. I'm showing you the analogy for how consciousness grows, right? And Olo is on the way because we have more calories. Olo, the color Olo is here because we have more calories because we've been working on these things. And this is like a huge topic, just this. But damn, Sarah, you brought up these other you brought up other stuff too, and it's I keep more space in because honestly, I can't remember what else I was going to say, but there's something that even hit me more than this. I just didn't want to forget about the colors because I think that we are on the precipice. I know I've said this before, but we're just on the precipice of seeing this in real time, and probably the electrical tetrachromatic ways that you are seeing aura, that some of us are seeing aura, that some of us aren't, is just coming online so slowly that we're not consciously aware of it. It'll just enter into the vernacular. It'll just kind of pop in like that. It won't really be this big grand ribbon cutting ceremony where Pantone comes out and develops a new color. What'll happen is that just over time, and Pantone changes their colors all the fucking time. They're just always releasing new colors, and Olo will be there because they want to make press and they want to do this, and this is just how it works and slow. It's if you zoom out, it's going fast. But if you're inside your life right now, if you're 25 and you're wondering, is this ever going to change? Oh God, it's going to change. It's going to fucking change. It changes so colossally, it's hard to keep up with. And it's slow. It's so weird. but it unfolds that way. It's I think it's part of us being uh, immersed in the simulation. It's impossible for us just all of a sudden say there's a gorilla on the court. We need a reason for that. Then we need to slowly train ourselves to see the gorilla again. And then we'll look back at society and go, well, they were just a bunch of dumbass racists. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. The same way we look back at our culture 100 years ago and go, wow, we were fucktards. It's the same thing, right? We're not fucktards. It's that we are growing. It's that we're expanding so fast that the spectrum is changing, but we don't necessarily keep track of that. We don't see how brilliant we are inside of each spectrum, really, right? That's all I got. Thanks.
Thanks, James. Stuart, do you want to respond to that since your hand's back up? You might want to add something.
First, I feel like I see such nuances of color already. It's, of course, we can't imagine another color because we can't imagine. We think like we have all the colors. We might not have names for it. Like I remember in, well, the first Black Eyed Club when they were talking about blue and seeing green and not blue. It reminds me of when I worked in retail or was ever in a situation where somebody saw there's a teal color that's like blue green, and sometimes it's more blue and sometimes it's more green, but most people will see any of those shades as green. But I'll see the nuances. I'll see whether it has this much blue, and I can match, like if I'm trying to refinish something and need to match a color, I can do it perfectly. So I can see the colors. Okay, second subjects, fear and fear. I find it ironic how the more, especially since 2020, we've had this increase of the imposition of fears, and at the same time, the increase in the imposition of convincing us what will keep us safe. That's it.
I like it. Very good thing to point out there. That was,
That's the Hegelian, is that the term? I always forget the term, Hegelian dialect,
Yeah.
problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
How
Yeah.
a spider builds a web, you know? You're going to tick this way, then tack that way, you know?
Yeah.
And
The
yeah,
safety is your main tactic, and safety is the cure-all.
yeah. And fear is really our only, our lighthouse. It's this kind of sonar that's giving us the very first impulses. And eventually we learn to see fear in different cues that aren't fearful because they're lower level threats to where the power is. If actually, I think this is what I was going to say. If you look at the architecture, the stoic ugliness of the architecture that we live through, and that's, I think I see it changing. But if you also look at when I grew up, not when I was young, but once you got into the 90s, you pretty much were really limited for what you could wear as a guy. It was just very certain, you know, so you could wear a flannel or you could wear like a drab V-neck shirt. It needs to be the same color. You're not going to be wearing any bright colors. It's none of that. Bell bottoms went away. A lot of flair went away. And this is a restriction. It made me like gas for air. And I think it made everyone do that. But it also led to a renaissance. And that seems to keep happening in architecture, that there tends to be a stoic nature will rise, then postmodernism will come, and postmodernism was only going to be popular because it's able to make fun of what was just there, right? That it's built off the ridicule of what was there. So in order for something to be fashionable, it has to be ridiculous in the future. It has to have the ability to become ridiculous enough to where a new culture would be built upon it. And when that culture destroys the old culture, we have nostalgia for it because it's gone. And this is an engine. This is a piston where the 70s is a piston that has to go really strong, a lot more cocaine, and then you pull it all out, cut it all off. It's all gone. It's all gone. And only then do you have the pulse of disco that remains. Only then do you have the reminiscing of it. Do you have weird shit? No shit. You have weird shit like the Bee Gees, like guys singing like that. Amazing fucking stuff. And you're looking at what they're wearing. You're looking at the feathered hair, and you're wondering, how the fuck do you guys pull this off? How do you do it? And imagine what a machine is thinking. Imagine telling a machine, yeah, you got to figure out how that's going to happen. And you're just like, what the fuck? How am I going to? This is so completely the opposite of everything that I've ever heard. But not if you unwind it. Not if you take it back to a sexual revolution. Not if you take it back into Elvis. And if you take it back into pre-Elvis. You take it back into this prohibition period. And right after that was after this roaring 20s, where we literally were saying all the religions are here, and that this is the new Jerusalem, and this is the new anything, and this is Xanadu, and all the other stuff. That you become ridiculous overtly, and you become ridiculous invertly, and that this allows culture to build on top of each other. So there's never a correct answer. There's never a correct direction. It's always attacking. It's always a zigzagging, right? It's an evolutionary dance, so to speak. And there's an algorithm there. There is. It's like a giant spiral unwinding of time or something, you know? I don't know how it works. I do think that someone knows that algorithm. And that probably would be all you need to say that you're God. If you knew that if you just play this song inside this petri dish, then this whole thing unwinds. You get to be God. Does anybody object to that? Like, because in my mind, that's really all it would take. Is who came up with that signal? Who came up with that resonance? You create a universe. That's what we do artistically. I create a book. Sarah talked about my book. I'm just like, holy fuck, she's talking about my book. She's talking about my book like it's in her head. I mean, that's very meaningful to me. It would be as meaningful to me if God was to come down and notice that all of us were taking this shit seriously. That all of us were like, oh yeah, this is real. Yeah, oh, this is real. Oh, professional wrestling. Yep. MTV. Yep. It's all real. God would be like, this is amazing. Look at this. This is 18 trillion years ago, you know? And I did this little spiral thing, and the calligraphy of that is still going. This is the voice of God is a piece of code that knows how to say the right notes, that it keeps unwinding the logos, right? I mean, it's all, it's so obvious in my mind. It's so obvious. It's so obvious that this is the intelligence that we're talking about. I've never felt more confident than I do over the last few years. Just not even necessarily watching it unfold, finding the posture that I have that allows me to watch it unfold. That really has been the thing that's changed me the most in reference to this. And I don't fucking give a shit if I'm right. I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. I don't need you to agree with me. It'd be nice if you did. We'd save a lot of calories. But I'm not in that game anymore. It's okay. You know, this is progression too. This is progression too. And watching the trans movement, watching the pride movement, watching all the tricks that we do to our generation to create a new generation on top of the ridicule of the other makes total sense to me. Like very predictable. And every time I watch some orthodox person freak out about how upset they are over the liberal bias, I'm just like, that's all they're doing is watering it. They're just watering that. They're just watering it, saying, I want more. Here's all the ridicule you need. Let's write some fucking history, you know. Let's do that. So we're directly living inside nature's algorithm, and it's pretty profound and beautiful and genius. That's all I got.
If I may interject real quick, James, when you're talking about the Orthodox watering in their anger, I took that as like what you meant today when you were talking about you can think of it like not as demonic power but as angelic power if you want to, but I don't think it's going to work for you. And that's kind of what I took your meaning, like when you say like I'm using this angelic power and everything is evil, that you're watering it, but you're watering it with the causticity, the disapproval. Uh, that's all.
Thanks, Cameron. Deb, go ahead. Your hair looks beautiful, by the way.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
So good.
I was just thinking about dyeing it pink. I'm really bored, but Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Anyway, I found out something so cool today. There's a word, and I knew there must be words. There must be a description of this somewhere, of the sensations that I've had along with sensitivity that that I didn't know what they were, but I knew they were not normal. So anyways, I was so excited I can't even breathe because I know the words. For some reason, this just makes my day. So the man's name is, I think it's Banerjee. He wrote a book about Sri Aurobindo, and they're the words for it's siddhis, and they're in Sanskrit. They each have like there's 7 different parts of the human that can have areas of siddhis. And so the area of them that I have them is body. So the first one I can describe to everybody because it's the feeling of when a ghost walks over your grave, kind of feeling, or however you say it, in your neck of the woods. But that feeling of you get, that chill thing. And then the second one is electricity. And so that's what I started feeling when I started meditating, and I found it useful to meditate on that. And I didn't do it on purpose or anything, but it's actually a thing that people do on purpose. So then the next part of it is the bliss part. I think that's the part. But no, I think there's another part in there anyways, but there's 4 parts and there's words for all of them. The other one is when the hair stands up on your arm. That's like part of this group of body cities. So that's a paranormal experience when the hair stands up on your arm. I just thought that was so cool. And I'm really excited to know that I can actually talk to somebody who knows, what happened, because I have words to explain it that sound somewhat rational. In Sanskrit, anyway. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Sanskrit's great. Tadashe, my business actually means an energetic field where your hair stands on end. So Hadashe in Sanskrit means, oh my God, this is a great place. My hair's standing on end. And I have a hair salon, so it worked out that way. But yeah, Sanskrit's it's such a beautiful language. And it's so funny, like, oh, that sounds good too. But I love that you knew intuitively how to follow your body signals, and then you read that it was something that's been done. So knowing that you just know how to do that when it's your body, and you can beautifully put words to it or find words and go, oh, and relate it to us. Thank you so much, because just any type of explanation is great for what you're going through, and I can understand it on a deeper level, which I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Pa, you're next.
Hi, everyone. Not going to correct anybody about F sharps or anything like that. But interesting you talk about that Olo color. I didn't send that to you, but I was curious because, that what they describe is the color that I see in my, when I look at the sun and I close my eyes in the after image. It's a super saturated teal, with a green border. And I'm like, I always wondered about that because, I don't really see that color. I'm pretty sensitive to color. Like I've studied, like I used to be able to, in the early days of eBay, I could look at a really bad picture and even tell like if the finish was original and like be able to take a chance on a vintage instrument, or that was my main thing, is I was able to identify hues, and I'd studied the history of the materials and the DuPont, car colors and the materials and there's like polyester and you get those bright acrylic colors and it seemed so ridiculous, just like you said. But I didn't send you that, but I just found that interesting because, they say they shine 1,000 lasers in your eye. And I'm like, well, how is that different than looking at the sun? And plus Olo means, it made me think of you, James, because it means smell in Latin. So I was just like, that's interesting that they named it smell, because there's all this synesthesia-ness going on. But
Wow.
I just thought I'd mention that because, it had run across my sonar, so to speak.
I forgot to tell you guys that the last part that was the important part, which is normal for me, but it's that you can change pain into bliss. So that's part of the one that I already have accessed, and I just have to keep working there. And there's 6 other ones for you guys to all explore. It's very exciting. Anyway.
Oh, this is all great, amazing stuff. Yeah, to just back up what Pie's saying, this Olo color is more saturated than any other color before, and it's not considered directly perceivable right now, at least by most people. But keep in mind that modern science doesn't even tell you about this fourth cone. I mean, that's you weren't told that. I wasn't told that. It took me till I was 50 to read that. And I don't think when I was a kid anyone even knew that. I've been to the ophthalmologist. That guy's not like cutting edge. Oh my God, look how fascinating the eyes are. He's not. He's just like, there's some drops. It's not. No one's doing these things. No one in the field's doing these things. Why would you do that? You're in the field. You're making money. You're taking care of yourself. You're living a life. You're doing your other stuff. So yeah, it's so huge that we say things like this, and then 6 months later something like this drops, and it's so reaffirming. This happens all the time. It happens more than it doesn't happen. And I'd say it more, but I honestly, it feels like I'm bragging because I'd be like, "See, I told you guys." I used to do that all the time. I still do it a lot, but I have stopped tremendously. Believe it or not, actually I don't think I do it that much, but I used to do it all the time. It used to strike me. Now it's just kind of boring. It's just sort of like, yeah. That's why I don't really go into politics as much anymore, because it's just, why am I going to say the same thing? Why am I going to have that same thing? But this is different. Every time you look more at this stuff, there just seems to be a little bit more that's telling you to go a little bit deeper. And I freaking love this. This is a good algorithm we're on. So thanks for sharing.
I would have really loved to be more in sync with my brother, because he's kind of saying the same things like that I was saying, like, I don't know, over the last 10 or 20 years, but I just don't relate to it now because I've already seen other things. And so now I have all these, these things that I would have thought we would have had in common, but then somehow there's still this big gulf, because I still wouldn't be able to, like, we'd still be arguing like within 5 minutes of being in each other's field probably. And it's tough, everything's all out of time, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy watching, as you say, and seeing things unfold. And it's great to have people here. I think I really can't imagine, like, I'm not sure if I hadn't have stumbled across this whole crew, and I'm not sure where my psyche would be. So, in the last few years, like a lot of change just in that time, and just even that. Anyway, I just, it's interesting.
Thanks, Pi. I was thinking back to, I may have mentioned this before, but possibly not. When I was in labor with my first child, I was at a hospital in the shower for many, many hours. But one of the main way I processed the contractions was I'd have my eyes closed and I'd see floating blobs of color, just kind of, how they go across your eyes, like purple, red. I just follow them as I kind of work through the building pain. And then of course it'll settle down. Um, But that's really fun to think about, like the colors I followed, and maybe 100 years ago, what did those ladies do? Were they like, I'm just going to close my eyes and maybe I'll make some new colors? I don't know, but that was the one thing that took my mind kind of off the building of the contraction, that just I could focus on something else within my eyes. And it was I didn't know that was there. I was like, this is something I can focus on. This is a nice distraction. All right, Sarah, go ahead.
Yes, talking about beauty and terror, that brings me to can I read the first few lines of probably my favorite, only favorite poet. I don't know if I've read any others, and most inspirational for when I started to write poetry. And I can't pronounce the R name because I found out it's a tongue tie that keeps you, that you can't say R's properly. So it's Rainer Maria Rilke. It's German poet, but I'll read the English. This is from the first elegy, or elegy, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Who, if I cried out, would hear me among the angels' hierarchies, and even if one of them pressed me suddenly against his heart, I would be consumed in that overwhelming existence. For beauty is nothing but the beginning of terror, which we still are just able to endure, and we are so awed because it serenely disdains to annihilate us. Every angel is terrifying. That's the first few lines of a longish. So it's got that beauty and terror and awe, and he's just he's amazing. I love him. And yeah, color has always been super important to me. From its legend, I always say, legend in my family has it that from the time I was two, when I was two, I wanted a purple coat, and it wasn't that easy to find in 1960. But my mother found one, and I have a picture of me in that purple coat.
I love that you were insistent it must be purple. At 2 years old?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm trying
That's
to find this word. It's Cameron, you might know this word. It's it sounds like beauty, but it's beatify. It's be
Beatific?
Beatitude or beatitude or it's got a tude on the end of it, but it's
something. Yeah. Beatitude.
Patient, that's like a used in the church, isn't it?
Yeah.
A beatitude.
It's actually easier to pronounce than you think when you're reading it, and then once you pronounce it, you're like, oh fuck, I know that word, and excuse my language, and then you forget, and then you have this experience 3 or 4 times, but it's that word, and be a beatitude, like latitude, but with beat at the beginning of it, and it is this supreme blessedness, but it's a painful, it's a it's a loud experience. It's not described as it's almost like a responsibility that certain saints are given. They're beatified. It's That's not how it's pronounced, but they're beatified or something in the church, which means that they're capable of seeing the terrible splendor of God. And I remember growing up hearing the idea that that seeing God would be hard. I always was really surprised by that. It makes perfect sense to me now, but I remember growing up going, "Oh, I didn't know. I wasn't expecting that. Would have thought it would have been the opposite." And you would think it's the opposite until you understand how all this works, right? What it's like, what it will require you to see someone is to compassionate them in some way. And how would you be able to compassionate God unless you had the aperture for it? If you were a black and white seraphim that had no face that looked at God, you'd be this squiggly thing that could interpret God. And I know I've said this before, but that sounds like a porpoise. Like that, that sounds like a an ancient sea creature. It's something that can behold something that's just too fucking intense for landlubbers to even insert. And this it writes itself. Every single thing, even finding holiness writes itself. Even noticing that evil is just a response to the beatitude of God. that evil is an umbrella, a parasol that we that we erect to try and separate ourselves from that. So we need shame, we need lies, we need the garden of hiddenness. The ability to hide things would be the only thing that would give us identity. And that's an African concept. It's a deep African concept that if you cannot hide, you are not alive. If you cannot secrete things, you are not a person. So, how could you see God if you weren't able to hide from him? It's weird, right? Like I always say that God's peeking at us, but it's really the opposite. Like it's really all of us are peeking at God at like different points, right? At different distances from it. And it melts our face off. It's not everyone's not doing this. Why is everyone not doing this? Because of this. This is why. This is why. And it requires us going through these gauntlets, these massive gauntlets. If you were a great worker, someone believed in the great work, if it was your mode to teach Olo to the masses, you would insert trauma, you would insert things or confusion. I used to do this with kids all the time. I didn't know I was doing it on purpose, but all the time if I'd meet a kid, I would tell an abrupt, blatant lie to the kid in front of their parents. It was like a joke, but I would lie, and I didn't know why I was doing it. I think I was doing it to show the kid, look, adults lie, man. Adults lie. I want you to see that you're in front of your parents. I didn't have a conscious idea of, well, this is how I think, but I always did this. It was my go-to. It was my go-to. Convince the child of things that there's no way it could be true. And if I caught them believing, I would up the game. I would up the game until it became so ridiculous that they'd have to finally laugh, that they'd have to laugh. And I would feel that I won when they laughed because they laughed at their own folly. They laughed at their ability to believe in that. This to me is school. This to me is what we should be doing to every kid all the time. It sounds like torture. Sounds like some gaslighting. Not gonna lie. Sounds like a gesture. Sounds like maybe James doesn't need to have kids. And don't worry, I can still do this. I just don't have kids. I'm not going to fuck with anyone personally. I just have moments with other people's children so I can fuck with them. This is a beautiful world, right?
Can I add something funny?
Yeah.
That so my daughter used to do that the opposite way. If I was chastising her, she would like come over and sit on me and look at my face and like do stuff and say, "You're trying not to laugh. You're trying not to laugh," and would totally um undermine my seriousness of what the point I was trying to get across, and any anger that I had with her was just gone. Because if somebody is saying you're trying not to laugh, what do? You freaking laugh.
Yeah, she's using her magic on you. That's great.
Very clever, very clever. Go ahead, Cameron.
Um, I've just got so many things I want to say. Annie, the last meeting was talking about the man with the 50-gallon drums and going through everything, and that reminded me of a job I had at Hobby Lobby. And just because everyone's talking about color, I don't consider myself an expert in color. I don't know, and in the same way, like James was talking earlier, you don't know what everybody else is capable of. That's it's always a mystery. I mean, to this day, like I don't know who's smart or who's stupid, or if I'm smart or if I'm stupid. I really this is all a big unknown. Uh, but one thing about all the danger of everything that guy, I just wanted to. This is something I should have wrote in the, but I used to. It was in the height of when I was getting into more conspiracy theory realms and just looking at the material safety data sheets on every single product. It was just terrifying. Like everything was cancerous and everything, every single dye, every single propylene glycol, all the every product. I mean, but then again, I think you could kill somebody with a 50-gallon drum of distilled water or spring water if you, forced into their system. I'm sure there would be a material safety data sheet on spring water as well. Um, I really appreciate James earlier today when he was talking about, telling a kid a lie. I imagine that as like escalating the great work in a sense, or and as far as colors go, it's been I've been I think of red as Mars, or as a martial color, and I think of Heraclitus as saying that war was the father of all things. Uh, and he was a guy who lived in a Persian area that was controlled by Greece, and so he might have been working with Zoroastrian themes. And we work through different elements that represent the same thing. Like I say that because James was talking about escalating the great work in terms of fire today. Um, and what we've talked about in the group before about seeing this, like instead of war being the father of all things, perhaps it's tension. And we've talked before about how surface tension can condition air and water and all the elements. It really allows elements to collaborate and to condition each other, which is a great power. I and I feel like I'm jumping all over the place, and this could be non-canonical. I read a while back from the same person who told me that that the sunflower was Clytie, which I guess was wrong. But that Mars or Aries was Zeus's least favorite son, and and I don't know if that's in the lore, if anyone had ever encountered that, uh, but that interests me because I like thinking of Zeus the way James encourages us to as the brain, or perhaps the neurological system in totem or in total, and how averse we can be to tension, and yet how ultimately, I mean, it's just the only way forward. But like Deb said, turn it, like transmuting that into bliss, transmuting that pain into bliss. Um, which again just gets back into the reptilian series, as James mentioned. Seeing like these all of this whole spectrum of emotion and feeling, especially as the body translated, it carries the same signature. And thank you guys for letting me share all of that.
If you think about what is, if demons are supposed to be scary, and they are, and I don't want to ruin that. I want them to stay scary. I don't want to have to create something else that's even more terrifying on top of it. Demons is fine. Let's just use it, right? So let's not normalize demons. Let's keep them where they are. I want to encourage that, and I I I want that feeling itself, that this appetite that we have for it, to be where the real lesson is. Why are you afraid of demons? Because fear is a compass of power, which means that all the demons that you're afraid of are power. That we fear demons because we fear power, which means that collectively we all fear demons because we know that that's where the power is. So whose power is it? Whose power is it? These demons are living inside of you. They're possessing your skin, your furniture, your clothing, your house, your life, your logos, your signature, your email box. Whose power is that? It's yours. So demons will always be here as long as we fear our own power. They would always have to be here until we do. This is how we hold power but not resolve it, but not own it. We disassociate from it. So you can possess me. Just make sure it's not my power. Can you just pretend like this is your power? And you said yes, but I need you to pretend like this is your power. And I'm like, well, okay, but I'm just going to give it to this other guy. Then I go to this other guy. Hey, can you pretend that this is your power? And that this is fucking brilliant. This is what we've done. This makes us legion because we possess each other with our own power. Right? I think everything coming forward is this: holographic medicine, trauma work, psychology, right? If you can manifest a visible color in your spectrum and assign it to a demon, you can change it. You can manifest I know there's these people now on Instagram that are like, as soon as you scroll, they're like, please consent, please consent. And then this person is pulling energy out of you, and she's beautiful at it. Like, you can really feel it. You can really feel the natural. And because she's saying, I need you to make sure you consent, please scroll if you're not consenting. And it's fucking brilliant. It's fucking brilliant because the tangible holographic nature of what she's doing and how serious she's playing is changing me because I want to play too, right? I want to play too, so I'm able to tap into it and let her practice holographic medicine on me. The same way you would let your kid play doctor on you. The same way that you would play doctor on your wife. Like I'm trying, even when we look at how we play with each other, how we do all these things, it's just showing you these same tenets, these same kind of things are being expressed. So I think we're entering into an age where we are going to become more immature by design, where we are entering into a state where we are allowed to not just stretch out into 13th grade. I've always said college is 13th grade like an insult. I don't know why. What are you in a fucking hurry for? You want to go work at Sears? Is that it? Why would we not extend our childhood? How does this hurt society? Is it because the Hottentots or the ninjas or the communists are going to come get us? Because I don't believe that. I just don't. I really don't believe that. And even if they did, I've watched the world's most sophisticated, strongest, most powerful military ever assembled had their ass kicked by $2,500 in guys in a used pickup truck. So it's not like we can save ourselves. It's not like there's any sort of like, oh my God, we have to take this seriously because we got to make sure that all our Marines are tougher than all the other Marines. And our Marines aren't tough. Our Marines aren't tough. Our Marines are walking around just doing whatever we tell them to do as long as we say thank you. We're telling them how to dress, what to wear. They have all their needs met. They don't wake up in trauma. They get yelled at. Big fucking deal. That makes them feel better. They're like, I was yelled at. I have this t-shirt. I'm been yelled at. And it's not, this isn't trauma. None of this is creating eagle fucking warriors that are going to go samurai themselves, right? Or dip themselves in kerosene, take a bunch of fucking meth and walk into a bank and just fucking end civilization. None of them are going to do that. And I don't want them to do that because I don't think those guys are actually out there. I think there's like 4. I think there's like 4 guys that are like, I want to fucking blow up the fucking world. It's like, yeah, I get it. What else are you going to do? Of course, 4 of you are going to want to blow up the world. I would be worried if there weren't 4 of you that wanted to blow up the world right now, right? So why are we giving them all of our attention? Why are we insisting that we have to build this entire parabola around it, right? And it's because we are afraid of our own demons and we can't even talk about it. I can't even say ego without being like, oh, fuck. I tried to say ego. Sorry, James, can't share your article. Looks like you're talking about ego and demons and I can't have any of that. And I'm just like, of course you can't fucking share this. Of course you can't. Because we're supposed to teach everybody, if you just become selfless, all your magical dreams will come true. And I'm just like, who the fuck is, this has never been, it's never happened that way. It's never fucking happened that way. I'm getting off track here. I got a lot of demons right now. I'm trying not to talk about, I appreciate you guys.
That's okay, James. We like your demons. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up with you.
Okay. Speaking of demons, I have a poem, one of mine, from several years ago on Orcas Island. I don't know, 1998 or 9. It's called, and this happened one night and became a poem. It's called The Promise. I heard a noise past midnight outside below. Some animal, peculiar sound. Tasmanian devil, I thought. My own escaped. Frightened by the bombings in my dream, I called out to it, come back, don't go just yet. We can coexist, I promise you, in peace.
I love it. That's great. What a great poem to end on. Thank you, Sarah, for that. All right, everyone, thank you for joining us on Wednesday nights. Wednesday night, Earth Dojo. Go ahead and unmute and say goodbye. Thanks a lot.
Brad. Yeah, great to see everybody. Thanks for hosting.
Good to see everybody too. I've been missing you.
Love you guys.